Hello everyone, my name is Aaron Standard. I'm one of the creators of Akka.net, and today we're going to do a quick Akka.net tutorial video on stashing, which is one of my absolute favorite features. I use it in a lot of my own projects every day. We're going to go ahead and learn how to leverage stashing in order to defer processing of messages. So if you need to build a state machine where an actor needs some piece of information before it can do its job, stashing is a really powerful tool for being able to make sure that you can go ahead and if you get a message that arrives before you have all the information you need to process it, you can safely defer it using the actor stash and then process it later once you're in the appropriate state. We use this same image in a couple of our previous videos, which I'm going to reference in just a second. But what is an actor? Well, it's state plus behavior plus location. That's what makes an Akka.net actor. This video is focused on the state and behavior portion of this. Specifically, when we are in a state where we are not able to process certain messages right now, we need to defer processing and then maybe change behaviors later once we have all the information we need. That's the goal that we're going to try to accomplish today. So some of our previous videos you may want to watch in order to follow along with this one. The first video is on how Akka.net actors process messages. This is kind of one of our 100 level tutorials on the basics of how actor message processing works. I'll provide a link up here and in the description, so you should go ahead and check that one out. The other video that you might want to watch is a recent one we did on Akka.net actors and switchable behaviors. Switchable behaviors gets used in combination with stashing all the time. In fact, it's probably pretty difficult to use stashing without switchable behaviors unless you write a whole bunch of custom if statements in all of your message handling. Switchable behaviors and stashing often get used together, and the two of them can be used to create very simple, very high performance, highly atomizable state machines. So definitely recommend watching both of those videos first, maybe before you dive into this one. Otherwise, let's go ahead and proceed. So this is the way actors normally process messages. So let's say we have a single instance of our actor type. We'll call it a stashing actor. This actor receives messages A, B, and C. It could be from a single sender, it could be from several, doesn't matter. The mailbox is going to order those messages into a queue for us. So it uses a concurrent queue internally to do this. So the messages will be ordered in their arrival order, so A, B, C. The actor will process message A, maybe send a response back to whoever sent it, and then B, and then C. This is what normal message processing looks like. Well, what happens in the event that we have an actor that has an internal flow that looks like this, where maybe the actor needs to be able to recover some data from a database or an external web API or whatever before it can actually begin processing any of the messages that external actors might be sending it. If we receive a message from an actor in this state, we are not able to process it right now. We need to get the message from persistence back first. Or there might be a stream of messages we're getting back from persistence in the event that, we're using like event sourcing or maybe even Akka.persistence. This is literally what's happening under the covers here. Akka.persistence kind of breaks up the actor's state into a snapshot plus a combination of events that occurred afterwards. Well, we need to make sure we're fully recovered before we try to process any of these messages that are being sent to us. And that deferring of messages until we're ready is a very, very common design in every single finite state machine implementation that has ever existed. The iStash interface in Akka.net is the component that we use in order to make sure the actor has a very simple built-in tool for being able to do this. The actor can take messages it can't process right now, move them into the stash, and then move them back out of the stash once we're ready to process them. So let's dive into some more details on that. This is a little bit of the actor code we're going to take a look at. And there's two things to pay attention to here. The first is we decorate the actor with this I with stash interface. This is going to cause Akka.net, when it's populating this actor, to inject a stash into this actor's field right here, this iStash property. We kind of handle this from the outside with Akka.net. The reason being is that when you decorate your actor with a stash, you're actually changing the structure of the mailbox. You're turning it from a single queue to a double-ended queue. And the reason why that's important will be apparent later when we kind of explain how unstashing works. But this is why this is kind of handled via a little bit of dependency injection with Akka.net. So this is the I with stash interface. This is how we enable stashing on an actor. So we saw this actor a second ago. Let me close this here. This is the NuGet product actor, and we only saw, I think, just up to this on it. This is an actor that's going into the rewrite we're working on of SDK bin right now. And normally, while I would like to use Akka.persistence if I'm working on a greenfield project, This project was very heavily CRUD oriented, and rather than try to introduce a whole bunch of moving parts on top of what's already there, we decided that we are going to do a little bit of custom persistence, CRUD-like persistence, using this little abstraction here, this NuGet product state persistence. And this is what we use to go ahead and recover our current state from the database, and then we proceed with message processing afterwards. So the way this actor works is actually pretty similar to what we do with Akka.persistence. This is the pre-start lifecycle hook. So if you've seen our video on how actors restart, you might be familiar with this. This is a hook that gets invoked before the actor ever processes its first message. We're going to go ahead and tell ourselves this recover message right here. And so if we scroll up into our onReceive, our sort of default behavior here, if we get that recover message, we're going to go ahead and basically load our state from the database using this little repository I've crafted here. And if that succeeds, great. We'll go ahead and unstash all of our messages down here, and we'll also shift our behavior back into the running state. So we'll talk about unstashing and how that works in just a second. But this is the real key thing I wanted to show here. If we get a message that is not this recover, we are going to stash that message and defer it until we're ready to process it. And we're ready to process it, the way we define that, is after we have finished processing successfully this recover message here. Now, if we unsuccessfully recover our state, let's say there's some problem with the database, we kill ourselves and we don't process that message anyway. This is pretty close to what Akka.persistence does automatically. But this is like a really simple and pretty clear-cut example of where stashing is appropriate. I can't process commands unless I have my previous state. And if I can't get my state, then I can't process commands either. So we shut ourselves down. And that's all she wrote. So when we call stash.unstash all right here, we're taking any messages that might have been queued up while we were in the process of doing this recovery, and we go ahead and we begin processing them like normal Akka.NET messages. And we're going to go ahead and show a little workflow kind of describing that in a second. But the basic gist of this here is that, look, in the event that another message is able to sneak in ahead of my recover message, I want to defer processing on it until after I finish processing this. If someone sent me 30 messages in a row before this actor had a chance to run its pre-start routine, and it's totally possible that that could happen, that's what the stash is there to do. Basically to help allow the actor to reorder the messages as it suits itself in order to recover its state. And then once it's done recovering, then we can process all the commands everybody else sent us. All right, so we just saw a little code sample kind of illustrating how stashing works. Let's break the feature down a little bit. Stashing works via in-memory queues. And the other thing about stashing is because the stash is actually an internal property of your actor, this in-memory queue does not need to be synchronized. It's protected by the actor's mailbox. So it's just a simple queue. There's no thread safety mechanisms built around it. It doesn't need them. The in-memory queue that the stash has preserves both the sender and the message for all the content that's sent to you. So when we stash a message, we're also stashing the address of the actor who sent it to us. That means that if we reply back to sender, it's going to be the exact same actor that it would have been had we processed the message live. This is important to help keep things simple. Next is that we can pop messages off of the stash one at a time by calling stash.unstash. So if you want to work through messages, one by one, you can do it that way. That's somewhat unusual. The way most developers tend to use the stash is they pop the messages all at once with unstash all. Because typically you're in a state where you can't process any messages until some operation completes. And then once the operation completes, you're free to process things in any arbitrary order if you want to. That's usually how this workflow expresses itself in code. Now, your mileage may vary, and you might need something a little bit more prescriptive than that. The stash has methods available to go ahead and unstash only certain messages that satisfy a predicate and things like that as well. I've never needed to use any of those in my decade plus of working with Akka.NET, but again, your mileage may vary. Now, when an actor crashes and restarts, one of the things that we noted in our video we made about this is that the stash automatically empties its contents back into the mailbox when this occurs. So you don't have to worry about losing any unprocessed messages if you're using stashing. The stash has built-in sort of protection against that as part of some of the Akka.NET infrastructure. But the most important detail is the message ordering picture here. As we covered in our video about how actors process messages, actors are trying to always process messages in first in, first out order. That's how queues work typically. Well, messages that are inside the actor's stash are always going to be older than what's inside the actor's mailbox. That's just basic arithmetic, right? If the actor's already processed the message, those messages are older and appear earlier in the total order of all the things the actors received than whatever it hasn't processed yet that's sitting in the mailbox. So when we call unstash or unstash all of those messages actually get prepended to the front of the actor's mailbox. So when we use a stash, we actually transform the mailbox structure to function as a double-ended queue. And the little queue that contains the actor messages, the queue that contains the stashed messages always gets serviced first. That's how we're able to kind of implement this double-ended queue functionality. So I'd like to close out by just taking a look at what the end-to-end sort of messaging workflow looks like when we have stashing in the picture. Let's say we queue up 4 messages, A through D, inside an actor's mailbox. Let's say message C contains the key payload that the stashing actor is waiting for in order to do the rest of its work. Well, message A is still going to get pushed first. We're going to stash it. Message B gets pushed next. We stash that. That's all part of the actor's memory now. And then message C is going to get processed. And we might reply to the sender. But the other key side effect that's going to happen is we're going to unstash all. And that means messages A and B are going to be moved to the front of the actor's queue. Message D is still sitting there. It hasn't been processed yet. But message A will get processed first. And then message B will get processed next, and then finally message D will get serviced. And this is how stashing is supposed to behave. It gives us the ability to pull some messages out of order, so we pulled A and B out of order, and then put them back in the order when we're ready to. So this is designed to help make it easy to reason about when you receive things out of order. It's much easier to enforce this on the receiver side a lot of the time than it is on the sender side, particularly if senders are distributed or they're running in parallel. This gives the receiver the ability to kind of determine in what order am I going to do my job. And this makes it very easy in combination with tools like behavior switching to build finite state machines and all sorts of other useful constructs you might run into when you're doing stateful programming with actors. So that's it for today. Please don't forget to like and subscribe and get notifications on our YouTube channel if you want more content about Akka.net and building great .NET applications. Thank you very much.